Hi, welcome to Bank of America Advancing Access to Capital and Economic Opportunity series by Bank of America. I'm your host, Irene Cho. This webinar is brought to you in partnership with EWDD, Business Source Pico-Union Westlake region operated by PACE Business Development Center and Bank of America. This webinar will be recorded and you may find it on our website, e-library, after a week or 2 weeks. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. Please mute yourself during the webinar. We will have the last 5 to 10 minutes for the Q&A session. So please ask the question during the Q&A session using raising hand emoji or writing question in the Q&A box. Okay, let's welcome our guest speaker, Valerie Rivas. Valerie.
Thank you, Irene, and thank you, Pace, for your continued partnership and for the opportunity to be able to present today. I believe this is our last session. This is our last session for the series. So I'm excited for this one. And this one I feel like it's actually very appropriate. I'm not going to get into politics, but elections just happened. And one of my partners just asked, what do you think of it? And not going to talk about it, but given our actual workshop today, it's actually very appropriate because, as you know, elections or certain current environments can actually affect certain industries. So it's actually very, very important to know how to pivot your business. And let's go ahead and get into that. But you know what? Actually, before I do all that, I do have to introduce myself for those of you that don't know me. And if you can please confirm, Irene, that you can see my screen.
Yeah, I can see it.
Perfect. Thank you, Irene, for confirming. So today we're going to be talking about pivoting a small business. And today, my name is Valerie Vivas. I am Vice President for Business Community Engagement here in Southern California and the Los Angeles County area. And I'm a business community officer. So what I do on a day-to-day basis is I partner up with nonprofit organizations that support entrepreneurship and business owners like yourself, such as PACE. And I get in front of their constituents and I provide financial education, literacy, resources, and also access to capital options beyond to what we have to offer at the banks. So in addition to that, I can tell you I've been in the business for the last finance industry for the last 20 years, been serving entrepreneurs like yourself and business owners for the last 14 years. And I have been with Bank of America for a total of 10 years. Furthermore, I sit on the board here internally with Better Money Habits. We drive volunteerism for financial literacy across Los Angeles. And also, I am part of the Hispanic Business Council. So we drive different initiatives throughout Los Angeles to be able to get the Hispanic entrepreneurs and business owners to the next level. Now, let's go ahead and get started and dive in. We're going to be talking about pivoting a small business. And what are we going to be covering? Pivoting your small business and why you should be doing that if needed. Keep business moving, access government and or local relief programs. So we're going to talk about all of that today. And as I mentioned earlier, today is actually very appropriate. And I don't think it was done on purpose, as elections and when things change as far as like presidency or office, that could actually possibly impact your industry. So it's very important to know how to pivot your business and what are the changes that need to be made. Now, what happened a few years ago? We went through some certain market conditions. What happened? There was the pandemic, and there were some that were ready, and there was unfortunately some people that were not ready and didn't know how to pivot appropriately, and unfortunately failed in their business, and unfortunately they're no longer around, or maybe still having a little bit of residue on the struggling. So we're going to go through some things to look out for. One of the things that I have learned is that no matter what, there's always going to be change, always going to be change. And when there's change, it could be positive change, negative change, but it's also how we handle it as a person and then also handle it for your business as well. So I want you to keep that in mind. Now, I want to relay some stats that are related to today's workshop. The Bank of America, we do something called the Business Owner Report every single year, okay? And we survey our clients across the country because we want to know what their aspirations are, what their concerns are, economic concerns more than anything, where they feel the direction of their companies or businesses are going, any new aspirations, but then more importantly, how we could actually serve them better. Now, in our recent findings in 2024, 71% of our clients are actually looking for access to capital options. 84% are actually concerned about inflation, and then 87% revenue will increase. And then 80%, they're looking to expand their business. So what does this mean? This is all related to today's workshop because in these situations, you may have to pivot your business. So it's very important to identify that is needed. So identify what is core and what can adapt, be resilient for success. So if you find yourself needing to have some sort of adjustments, or you find yourself that there's an economic concern or your industry might be in danger or there's some changes, there's certain things that you can do that you can still stay afloat and still make it through these rough times. Well, the first one is reducing hours and adjust schedules. And also being able to improve operational efficiency and then also think differently. So let me give you an example. So when I was during the pandemic, we had to pivot. So Bank of America closed their loans. We were not doing any credit cards, any loans, like our lending department was closed. So that's actually what I did primarily for work. But what ended up happening, we were in a worldwide pandemic. So what did Bank of America do? They took all of their manpower and said, you know what? We need to help our community. We need to help our clients. And we need to get these PPP loans, the Payment Protection Program loans that were for relief, which was a resource at the time for those that were struggling paying their employees because they were out of business and couldn't be open. So what did we do? They had a plan. They said, you know what? We have to pivot immediately. Everybody, we're going to training. We were working really long hours to make sure that we were serving our clients and be able to get these loans out. So we were doing jobs that we were not used to. But in this case, because we were essential and we had the money that needed to go out for these clients, we actually were not decreasing hours. We were actually increasing hours. So some things to think about, how to pivot depending on the situation. If you need to close your out, reduce your hours so that you're able to pivot and still stay on board. You always have to look out for yourself, but then also the business as well. Establish a small business emergency fund. Everyone that owns a business should have a business emergency fund, such as a savings account, and where you can actually save some money for a rainy day. And when I say rainy day, I don't mean literally rainy day, but rainy day is something else that could happen, such as pandemic. Maybe there is an industry shift and you need to use some funds and that you were not expecting because maybe you don't want to lose your employees. So a lot of different things can happen, whether it's your family, economic, it could be another pandemic, hopefully not anything like that. That was the worst time ever. But just being able to analyze your expenses, be able to chunk it down, but then also get some help when needed. So we're going to talk about at the end, if you do find yourself needing help, of where you can go seek help for resources as well. And then I'll also share some resources that we have available here with our partners and with Bank of America as well. And then also commit. Make sure that you're committing to being able to save and pay yourself and the business first. So I would say if you're not saving already, start at 1% and try to work your way up to 10% on a monthly basis of your revenue. Create a crisis communication plan. And this is something that we don't think about, right? When the pandemic happened, I know I wasn't ready for it. I know a lot of us were not ready for it. However, it is a good idea to actually have a crisis communication plan or a business continuity plan. Like, how are you going to continue business if, let's just say, something is to happen to you, or one of your key partners, something happens and they maybe handle the technology portion of things, or maybe they handle the financial side of things, and you're maybe not sure of what to do. Like, what are you going to do in that case? Do you have somebody that can come in and act as a CFO at the time? Or do you have other resources maybe internally that can easily take over at a task like that in a time of need? So make sure that you are able to have this information and where it's readily available. Also start a dialogue on social media. That's how you're going to reach a lot of the clients. And then also maybe email, but also list it on your website of, hey, I know right now, I was just telling Irene that I'm going through some real heavy winds of where I live. I live here in the Inland Empire and it's really, really windy. So I was having problems connecting earlier. And so these are things that, communication plan, you put it out there of, hey, this is what we're going through. This is how, temporarily we're going to be closed. We're going to be working from home. I have a membership to travel. And just recently they went through a hurricane at one of their offices. So it was taking a little bit longer. So, instead of being upset, oh my goodness, they're not answering. I'm like, oh my goodness, like they communicated that they're having issues. So people are more understanding to that. Keep business moving. So it is very, very important that you keep business moving. I don't know if I had mentioned this to you, maybe in a different class, maybe in a different class, but keeping business moving. So back when the pandemic, there was attorneys, there was beauty salons, there was estheticians, and they started pivoting to now selling some hand sanitizers because that was a need at the time. And immediately they felt like, oh my goodness, like we are losing revenue. We are not open. The courts are not open. What is it that we're going to do? So all of a sudden I started getting calls. Hey, you know what? I found a manufacturer that's manufacturing hand sanitizers. We're going to start selling hand sanitizers. So now they're making these revenues and not what they do on a day-to-day job, but now a whole total different industry, something that they were not used to, but they were able to make it through. The coronavirus changes how we work. Questions to consider. So if you can't market face-to-face, what other ways can you find to be able to sell your product? How are you going to push it? Is it going to be through social media? You may have to close down your shop if you do have one, or your office space, and pivot where your employees may have to work from home or do a hybrid type of setting. If people like face-to-face experience, how can you recreate that online? I know that for me, it was different to even do a webinar like this because we were used to doing everything in person. But guess what? Now it has created an environment where maybe a lot of us don't waste a lot of gas to be able to get to different places because this environment pushed us to do certain things. Not everyone loves coupons. How else can you stay on top of your buyers? So maybe send out some incentives of like, oh, we're having this great event, or kind of like just to attract your buyers to still stay as your clients. And then if people are watching more YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok while quarantine, what can you do to reach them? So I know a lot of businesses got really good at Zoom and also got really good at all the social media platforms to be able to deliver some advertising and staying top of mind and actually creating certain things so that they can still deliver the information, they can still be top of mind, and then also work on their brand. And then do you have your customers' email addresses, and how will you earn them? So being able to stay in contact, there's different programs that you can use to be able to stay in contact and top of mind. People are in these type of environments will probably more likely read their emails as they have a little bit more time, or maybe try to transition to now text messaging or maybe even direct mailers. access to government or local relief programs. So it's very important that you know what is out there in the time that you need or a crisis. As I mentioned earlier, there's different businesses that I work with in a personal level and at a business level. And there's been times in where they go through a crisis, maybe a hurricane or a flood. You've all probably heard of what has happened in different parts of the world lately, and where these businesses are affected because one, maybe they don't have a home to live, or there is a disruption in their community. So unfortunately, there may be times in where you need to access some sort of local relief and program. So it's very important that you are aware of where you need to go in the event that these things happen. Now, let me give you some programs here. So one of them is the assistance options, which is through SBA.gov. SBA stands for Small Business Administration. So some of the things that they have are payment protection programs, coronavirus guidance and resources, free business counseling, SBA guaranteed business loans, home and business disaster loans, and federal government contracting. Now, these are not only for when you are in need of assistance, but these are also programs that you could also use to get your business to the next level. So, for example, free counseling for your business, that's readily available at any time. Also, SBA guaranteed business loans, you can access those now. And the nice thing about SBA loans is that they are there to foster economic growth. So it is to the government's best interest that we are creating jobs, that we are getting loans, because it stimulates our economy. I don't know if you know this, but you're a pretty big deal as an entrepreneur and a business owner, because it's not the big companies like Home Depot, Lowe's, or Bank of America. I can't think of any others. US Bank, those are not the ones that are employing our population or most of our population. It's actually you, the entrepreneur and business owners, small business owners that are actually stimulating our economy by creating those jobs. So it is to their best interest that these resources are available. Also, home and business disaster loans. So what happened during the pandemic? It was a worldwide disaster. So what happened? SBA kicked in and said, okay, it recognized that it was a disaster. And why was everything maybe taking so long? Because it was pretty much, usually, if you think about it, when area is affected, it's usually a certain area. Like, let's just say right now what Florida just went through. It was a specific area. It was in all Florida. And so they know about, okay, this happened in this area, so this area is affected. We're going to go ahead and release these type of resources. So if anything like that happens in your area, go to SBA.gov and you'll be able to find these different resources. In addition to that, federal government contracting. So if you want to get certified to do federal government contracts, meaning that you're now doing business with the government, that's another great source and where you can go. As I mentioned, this is not just a pivoting resources, or you're in a disaster type of resource. These are resources that you can leverage and that are available to our communities through SBA. Another resource is score.org. So they have access to mentors and also additional education. So they actually do a lot of awareness, a lot of mentorship. And the nice thing about their mentors is that some of these mentors, they've already been business owners and they're actually retired. So now they dedicate their time to mentor others of how they were successful and how they were able to sell an $18 million, let's just say, business. And the reason I'm saying that is because I just met one that sold his business for $18 million. So of course he's mentoring others to kind of show them of how he did that and to get everybody to the next level, or whoever he's mentoring to the next level. Additional resources, we have bankofamerica.com/SBR. As I mentioned, and that stands for Small Business Resources. We actually renamed it to be our Center for Business Empowerment. So what you'll find there is different type of resources that are available. There's also event centers. So let's just say, for example, today you didn't really want to hear about pivoting a small business. Maybe you wanted to learn about cash management, or maybe you wanted to learn about social media. Then you can go in there and then you can actually sign up for a class at a time that is appropriate for you as opposed to what we have to offer today. As you already know, we also have PACE, which I briefly went over all of the benefits and the resources that they actually have available through PACE. PACE is one of our nonprofit partners, so please leverage us, Bank of America, and PACE to be able to help you with counseling, technical assistance, and pretty much anything that you need to get to the next level for your business. And then also on here, you'll see bettermoneyhabits.com. So bettermoneyhabits.com, what that is financial literacy for your business. If you want to buy a house, let's just say you have an elementary schooler or somebody that's a veteran and you want to get financial literacy for them, or a high schooler, prepare them for life. You can actually go in here and there's a resource there as well. Funding options for minority small businesses. So there is some resources out there that are focused in diverse perspectives. So one of them is Minority Business Development Agency. So they actually have funding for minority business owners, which is great. A lot of people don't know about this resource, but you can I will definitely send this deck over to Irene so she can go ahead and share it. And you can get access to different funding that is available out there, and also grants. Grants, meaning that you don't have to pay them back. Community Development Financial Institutions. So PACE is actually one of our CDFI partners. What it is the Community Development Financial Institutions. They are also there to foster economic growth and in our local communities. So they are able to provide funding in the event that you need funding and you're not being approved by the traditional lenders like the banks, meaning Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, a US Bank, Citibank, Wells Fargo, and so forth. So definitely check out if you are in need of funding and you're being rejected by your bank. There's community development financial institutions that you can definitely explore. The nice thing about community development financial institutions is that there's a bunch of different ones that focus on different niches. Now, what does that mean? There might be some that, let's just say that you only need $300 to $10,000. There are specific community development financial institutions that can help you with those amounts, which the banks usually start at 10,000. Also, they can help you if you have a new idea or you want to start a new venture. So let's just say that you need a pivot and you need to pivot to a whole different industry, or you have an idea, or you're a serial entrepreneur. A CDFI can actually help you fund your new project for your new venture. We talked about small business administration, all the different resources that they have available, but not only that, but also programming and loans so that you can get into them a little bit easier than if you could just go directly to the bank. There's local funding, so definitely visit your city. They may have grants that are available, especially if you're in an underrepresented area or maybe recently went through a crisis in the area. They may have local funding, so definitely check with your city as well. I mentioned grants. Those don't have to be paid back. So there's grants.gov. And then, of course, there's accion.org where you can find additional resources as well. Now, pretty much, let's recap about what we talked about. So we did talk about being able to pivot your business and actually getting on top of that. Knowing your industry is very, very crucial. So I always bring up the example of Kodak, okay? Kodak is a film company, and where at one point we had to use cameras and we had to use something called film to be able to produce. What ended up happening, the direction of that company, the way that industry was going, it was going digital. But they did not do digital cameras in time. They were not the subject matter expert for digital cameras, in which, since they were the leader, probably they should have been, right? So Kodak is no longer around. They were not able to pivot appropriately. They did not catch that in time. So recommendations is being able to stay on top of your industry, some of the risks that are associated with your industry, and just know how to pivot appropriately. And if you don't know how to pivot appropriately, please seek help. A lot of the businesses, why they fail is because they are not able to get the help that they need when they need it, or maybe they just feel like they don't need it, and then once they realize they need it, it's already too late. So it's always great to surround yourself with like-minded individuals and entrepreneurs like yourself, and also have a network. So that way you don't just close yourself to your industry, but then also widen your spectrum to be able to see maybe different directions that you can head when needed to pivot. But that's pretty much all I have for you today. And I want to thank everybody for joining today. And thank you, of course, Irene and Pace for your continued partnership. And I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, there is a one.
Okay.
So Alberto says, how do I find my local CDFI in my area?
That's a great question. Irene, I will email that to you shortly.
Okay.
And I'm going to show you a couple of additional resources that we have through the bank. And as soon as I can find it. So this would be, I can't see it. But while I'm looking for this, you can definitely log to www.accesstocapitalconnector.com. And that'll actually take you to one of our resources and where you're able to find where to go get funding depending on the amount that you need. So let me show you this really quickly. I'll go ahead and email this to Irene as well. You're welcome to email me as well, and I will go ahead and forward it to you. But this is a PDF file that we actually created. Where did I put this? That we actually created, and it has all of the different links for education, resources, and specialists. So on here, well, you did ask about how to contact your local CDFI. You can use this resource here. So you click on here, go to accesstocapitaldirectory.com. It's available to the public. You can put in the amount that you're looking for, your industry, and then it'll spit out information as to which lender or CDFI can actually help you with the funding. We created that one last year, so it'll tell you where to go. So if you want to search, their information, okay, this is the one that can help me, and then go ahead and Google them and call them, or sometimes I think it'll give you the phone number. The second resource that you can also leverage to be able to find your local CDFI is click on here and access to Capital Connector. And you can access this by going to www.accesstocapitalconnector.com. And with this one here, you are able to fill out a small application. And once you fill out the small application, it'll ask you how much money you're looking for, what kind of coaching and technical assistance do you need to get to the next level. And then one of our coaches and partners will contact you, and we'll be able to give you this, we'll be able to give you the funding that you need, the coaching that you need. But funny thing also is we have Pace here today, and Pace is actually a CDFI partner. So you definitely check with them. Check always with your bank first. If your bank can't do it, check your local CDFI because they're going to be the most affordable type of loan. But then also Pace has certain guidelines as to what they can and cannot. So my recommendation to you, if your bank or just Bank of America and Pace cannot do it, then at that point, then go ahead and see who else might be able to help you. I hope that answers the question. I know I give a lot of information. Any other questions, Ari?
No, that'll be all.
That's it today?
Yeah, that was
I know
fast.
today's kind of a little bit of a short one, but I always like to give an hour just because I get the opportunity to share resources. So I will just go ahead and just go through this really quickly before I email it to Irene. So that way, if you do want to click on these, you know exactly where you're clicking on. So we have our education center here, as I mentioned. So you click on here if you want to sign up for one of our classes for business financial literacy. You can click on here. There's different times. I'm a presenter, and then also my counterparts are presenters throughout the country. We also have our women program at Cornell University, and this is where Bank of America will pay for you to take some classes to be able to successfully run and get the resources that you need to build a business. And then we're a major sponsor for Tory Bridge Business Webinars and Foundation. So on here, you can click for webinars that are through Tory Bridge Foundation. I mentioned earlier our resource center, so you can click on here, different resources. On here, you'll find Vistaprint, so you can get a discount. QuickBooks, so you can get a discount for them on the first year. You'll also find InkFile. We have a partnership with them too, so if you want to incorporate or LLC, you can actually get a discount there. And then other resources and partnerships that we have, such as PACE and other resources that are available through our Center for Business Empowerment. I mentioned the access to capital and the connector earlier. And then here, this is what I do for work, business community officer. If you're interested in getting to know any of the others, you can go here. Women ambassadors, where they have National Association for Women Business Owners. If women, you're looking for a network, you can definitely contact our ambassadors and they'll connect you to a network. And we also have our CDFI ambassadors. So let's just say that you went into the Access to Capital Connector and Access to Capital Directory and you were not able to find something, you can click on here, contact one of our CDFI ambassadors, and they'll be able to let you know who your local CDFI that may be able to help you would be. And then, of course, if you want to get in contact with a business banker, you can contact me, and then I'll put you in hold with one, or you can go on here and explore our local bankers. But yeah, if we don't have any questions, that's all I have for you today. I want to thank PACE for this amazing year of being able to provide financial literacy to your constituents. And yeah, hopefully we get to work together again soon. Yeah.
Valerie, can you share your contact information on the screen?
Yes. You know what? Oh, yes. Okay. You know what? I forgot I don't have chat today, but yes, let me get it. Moment.
And I'll send out the PDF file soon as Valerie sent me.
Can you see it now? My
Yeah.
contact. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, you can scan the QR code and then you will see her contact information.
Also, I don't have access to chat, but I can go ahead and give you my work cell phone. So for those of you that are ready, or I don't know if Irene, you can maybe put it on the chat on my behalf.
Yeah, I will do it.
It's 626
Yeah.
418 0448. And my email is easy. It's Valerie, so my first dot last name at BOFA.com.
Valerie Rivas.
Okay.
Valerie.Rivas, right?
Yes, Valerie.Rivas at BOFA.com.
Okay.